Now, if you've got wooden windows, you're bound to have come across this problem: wet rot. Now, you can replace the whole thing, which is going to cost you about 200 quid, or you can fix it over the weekend for about £20, and I'm going to show you how to do it with these Ronseal wood filler and wet rot hardener. So the first thing we have to do is get rid of this lot. Dig it out. Now we've dug all the rotten wood out, you can see we've got a bad case of wet rot. But don't worry, it's easily fixed. What we need to do now is get all the paint off this window. To make sure the rot doesn't come back, it's best to treat the wood with a 5-star timber treatment. You can buy these at any DIY store. And then you get yourself an old paintbrush and then you flood it on like this. So now that's done, we can take the rest of the day off because this stuff needs about 24 hours to dry before you put on the hardener. Well, we're ready for stage 2. The timber treatments had overnight to dry, and now we're ready to put on the Ronseal wood hardener. We pour the wood hardener straight into the cap and we use it from there. Make sure you work this into every little gap, get it right in there. Now, a good idea is not to ruin a paintbrush, but to use an old toothbrush like this, because you can just throw it away afterwards. Now, this will take about 2 hours or so to dry, so I like to put on 2 coats. That way we make sure the wood is really nice and hard. So when the hardener's dry, all you need to do is give it a little light rub down with a wire brush. This roughens the surface and gives the filler something to key to. So now we're ready for stage 3. We're going to mix up the filler and we're going to fill up the hole. We just mix it up on a piece of cardboard using the black spatula that's provided. Now what you want is about a golf ball size of the filler to about a pea size of the hardener. Now mix this thoroughly until you can't see any of the hardener. This thing will be dry in about 10 minutes, so you've got about 5 minutes working time with it. So don't try and mix it all up at once, don't try and fill the hole up at once, we're going to do it in stages. So you've got to be quick. Okay, that's good. Okay, the trick is to work the filler into all the little cracks and crevices up and along the repair. Don't try and fill it all in one go. We'll let that dry. In about 10 minutes time we can mix up some more and we can finish it off. So now we come back for our second fill. Again, make sure there's no air behind it. Make sure it's all nicely in there. Again, don't fill it right up. It's good. Now we just give it its final coat from one end to the other. Lovely job. While we're waiting for this to dry, I just want to tell you how to fix a rotten window when this piece at the bottom has gone and you need to form a right angle there. Very simple, and I'll just show you over here. Got another window here that I've already treated, but as you can see it's got a big load of rot out of the bottom. Now it looks like quite difficult to get that square, but it isn't in fact. What I'm going to use is piece of hardboard with some panel pins knocked into it. We can slip that under there, line it up with the edge of the window, tap the panel pins home, and it gives us a nice square edge to build on. By the way, just a tip, just give this a coat of light oil or vegetable oil or something. That'll stop the filler sticking to it. You'll have a perfectly good surface under there, you won't even have to sand it. the board to the edge, and then we tap in the panel pins, not right the way in because we've got to get those out again with the pliers, so leave 1/4 of an inch sticking out. There, and we're ready to go. Now we do the same thing as before. We fill in to all the cracks, make sure it's keyed and stuck to the back. You can always come back and put more on, it's a lot easier than taking it all off. We just work it in there like we did before, and we'll let that dry and we'll come back to it. So we'll put the final coat on. So when it's dry, you need to make sure that the template's going to separate, and we do this by using a sharp model knife, and then we can just pull off the template from the bottom, and we've got a perfect surface that we don't have to bother sanding. Right, it's time to get back to our original repair. What we're going to do now is just finish off putting the top layer of filler on, just to fill up all those low spots. And then the whole thing's ready for sanding. There we go. Okay, now we're ready to give it its final shape. Now I'm going to sand it down by hand because it's easier. I'm going to use a sanding block, which is actually a lump of wood, and some aluminium oxide paper, quite rough, but it lasts longer and it doesn't clog. So here we go. Right, now that it's nice and smooth, we're going to put on some undercoat. That allows us to see any high and low spots and any pinholes. That way we can just fill over them, sand them back down, and get ready for a perfect finish. Now always use good quality paint. Cheap stuff is no good whatsoever. And so far, so good. Everything looks pretty much as it should. Okay, so all we've got to do now is let it dry, come back, put on the top coat and see what the whole thing looks like. Right, just a couple of things before we go. Always use a good quality brush. That way you get a nice smooth finish and you don't get loads of bristles in there. The other thing, good quality paint. I always use once because I don't want to paint it twice. So, let's go. There we are, finished. Now, we've gone from this to this in just a couple of hours on a Friday evening, a couple of hours on Saturday, and a couple of hours on Sunday. And we've saved ourselves between £200 and £300. Can't be bad.